Your laptop freezes 5 minutes before the Zoom call, and the cursor just spins in the middle of the screen. Someone says, "Of course this happens now." Someone else starts narrating the disaster before anyone has clicked a single thing. You can feel the room get louder, like panic is trying to prove it cares. Then one person stops talking. They plug in the charger. They close 3 tabs. They open settings, check the camera, test the audio, and keep their eyes on the screen while everybody else is still explaining how bad this is. That is the split most people miss. Some people see a problem, and their body treats it like a verdict. Something is wrong, which means someone is about to be blamed. Other people see the same frozen screen and treat it like an object with edges. Not pleasant, not easy, but touchable. The quiet person is not always calmer. They may just have a mind that stays close enough to try one small thing. A fixer is often just someone who does not leave the problem emotionally before the first test. And maybe that difference is not intelligence at all, but evidence your mind has collected about what happens when you try. At work, one wrong file gets sent, and the Slack thread goes quiet in that specific way where everyone is typing and deleting. 3 gray dots appear, disappear, appear again. Someone writes, "How did this happen?" Someone else starts explaining how bad this is going to look. Then one person skips the performance of being calm and asks, "What changed? What still works? And what can we test first?" That person may still feel the heat in their chest. They may still know this could become a screenshot in tomorrow's meeting, but their attention does not rush straight to shame. It goes looking for a handle. This is the part people mistake for confidence. It is not always confidence. Sometimes it is memory. Your mind remembers that one small action can change the next 10 seconds. Psychologist Albert Bandura from Stanford University found in 1977 that in guided mastery work with snake-phobic adults, people who took small, successful steps toward a live snake later approached and handled it far more than people who were only reassured or watched someone else do it. The fear did not have to disappear first. Their body just needed proof that contact did not mean collapse. That is why the person in the Slack thread asks a testable question, not because they feel fearless, because somewhere their mind has learned that reality answers action. Confidence is not a mood. Confidence is stored evidence, and that memory usually does not come from one big breakthrough. It comes from small repairs where your mind sees the world answer back. The Wi-Fi goes out, and everyone on the couch starts complaining like the whole apartment has personally betrayed them. One person gets up without making a speech. They walk to the modem, pinch the power cord between 2 fingers, and pull it out. Then they wait. Not a dramatic wait, just 10 quiet seconds where nothing has been fixed yet, but something has been touched. They plug it back in and stand there watching the little light blink. For a moment, it is still wrong. Then the light changes, and somewhere inside, a tiny file gets saved. Not "I am a genius," not "I can handle everything," more like, "When something breaks, I can stay near it long enough to learn one thing." That is how a fixer gets built. Not through praise, through contact. Your mind does not trust encouragement the same way it trusts feedback. Someone can tell you you're capable, and it may slide right off. But if your hand pulls the cord, the room stays quiet, the light changes, and the couch stops groaning, that lands differently. Reality answered, "That is the small proof your body remembers later. It shows up when the sink makes a weird sound, and you look under it before panicking. It shows up when a meeting gets tense, and you ask the dumb, simple question everyone was avoiding. It shows up when you try one small thing before handing the whole problem to someone else. Agency is not a personality trait. Agency is what repeated safe trying leaves behind. And this is where the story gets darker. Because if tiny evidence can teach your mind to move closer, then old evidence can also teach it that touching the problem is where the shame begins. The check engine light comes on during your commute, and before you even pull over, your stomach is already doing the math. You picture the repair bill, the mechanic asking what you ignored, the overdraft fee, the text you might have to send saying you do not know what the orange light actually means. So you keep driving with the radio low, not because you do not care, because looking at the problem already feels like walking into a room where you are about to be embarrassed. That is the part people miss when they call someone avoidant. Sometimes freezing is not laziness. Sometimes freezing is your body remembering that the last time you tried, you felt smaller. You asked one question and someone sighed. You opened the hood and somebody laughed. You made the call and the answer was more expensive than the fear. After enough of those moments, the problem stops looking like a thing to solve. It starts looking like a doorway into shame. Trying can feel more dangerous than waiting. That is the sentence people do not say out loud, because from the outside, it looks simple. Pull over, check the manual, ask someone, but inside, there is a whole courtroom already running. You are not just afraid the car is broken, you are afraid the repair will prove something about you. That you should have known, that you waited too long, that needing help means you failed some invisible adult test. So the orange light stays there, small, steady, almost polite. And your hands stay on the wheel, like if you just keep moving, you can postpone being exposed. There is another version of the fixer that looks almost identical from the outside. In a tense kitchen, a parent's voice gets sharper. Something starts burning on the stove. The younger kids disappear down the hallway, and one person stands there with a dish towel twisted tight in one hand. Without being asked, they turn off the burner. They lower their voice. They move people into different rooms, wipe the counter, answer the hard question, and become the emergency manager before anyone has to notice they are scared. From the outside, this can look like maturity. It can look like leadership. It can even look peaceful, because the person is not yelling, not crying, not adding to the mess. But inside, there are two very different engines that can drive the same behavior. One fixer is curious. Their body says something is wrong, but I can stay with it. They are close to the problem because they want information. The other fixer is managing danger. Their body says, if I do not take over, this whole room will fall apart. Same hands, same calm voice, completely different fear underneath. This is the dark side of being useful. Sometimes usefulness is not confidence. Sometimes usefulness is how your body buys safety. You learn to scan the room before anyone asks. You hear the change in someone's tone before the sentence is finished. You know which person needs space, which person needs an answer, and which person cannot be allowed to keep talking. And everybody calls you responsible, so you keep doing it, because being needed feels safer than being known. That is where fixing stops being problem solving and starts becoming a way to disappear inside the job. The dish towel gets tighter in your hand. The food is not burning anymore. The room is calmer now, but your body still has not received the message that the emergency is over. And once you see that split, the question is no longer whether you can handle the problem, but what happens inside you when you do not handle it. A bill sits on your counter for 4 days, folded under a coffee mug like hiding the logo might slow it down. Maybe you keep walking past it because calling insurance means hold music, extension numbers, someone asking for an account number you cannot find, and that hot feeling of being bad at being an adult. Or maybe you call before breakfast, write down every confirmation number, stay on speaker through 3 transfers, and still cannot relax until the problem is fully contained. Same bill, same phone, 2 different alarms. For one person, touching the bill feels like inviting proof that they already failed. So the shoulders drop, the eyes slide away, and the coffee mug becomes a tiny lid on a much bigger feeling. For another person, stopping feels dangerous. Their jaw locks, their pen moves fast, and their body stays braced like disaster is multiplying somewhere off screen. That is why this is not really a story about who is mature. It is a story about what uncertainty does to your body before you even decide. Avoidance says, if I do not touch it, it cannot judge me yet. Overhandling says, if I let go for 1 second, it will get worse without me. Different moves, same fear of the blank space before the answer. The real question is not whether you are capable of making the call. It is what happens in your chest during the part where nobody has fixed it yet. The hold music is looping, and the folded corner of the bill is still visible under the mug. And if that is true, then the goal was never to become fearless or endlessly competent. It was to stop treating confusion like the end of the story. At midnight, the only light in the room is the search bar while you type the exact error message like a confession. You read 3 useless answers, close 1 sketchy forum, try 1 small change, and for a second nothing happens. Then the screen responds. The problem is not magically gone, but it is no longer this sealed wall your mind was calling impossible. That tiny shift matters, because the fixer is not someone who always knows what to do. The fixer is someone who can sit next to uncertainty without treating it like proof of failure. Not knowing is not the same as being helpless. It just feels that way when your body learned to leave before the answer arrives. Maybe that is why you keep searching after everyone else says, I have no idea. Maybe that is why you test the cable, reread the email, look up the part number, or ask the plain question nobody wants to ask. You are not worshiping control. You are trying to hear reality answer back. And sometimes, one tiny response is enough to change the whole room inside you. The wall gets an edge. The monster becomes a problem. The panic becomes a next step. So if this names something you have been doing for years, quietly, without ever calling it anything, comment fixer. The difference is not that they know. It is that not knowing does not make them leave the room.